Happy morning, friends. Here's yours, Dr. Rajinta. Welcome to day 46 session. Today we are just going to continue the session of Python exceptional handling. And yesterday we have just seen about the try and inclusion of except. And today we are just going to have the optional finally class 2. Okay, see here dear friends, the try statement in Python can have an optional finally class, but this class is executed no matter what and is generally used to release external resources. So for example, we may be connected to remote data center through the network or working with a file or a graphical user interface. In all this circumstance, we must clean up the resource before the program comes to a halt, whether it successfully ran or not. So these actions, that is the closing a file or GUI or disconnecting from network, are performed in the finally class to guarantee the execution. So you can use a finally block along with a try block. Okay, and the finally block is a place to put any code that must be executed, whether the type block raised an exception or not. So here it is the syntax of the try finally statement, and kindly have a note of it. So here it is the try, and you can also include the except to and at last the optional of finally class. And kindly have a note of it, dear friends. You can provide except class or a finally class, but not both. You cannot use else class as well as within a finally class. I just repeat it. You can provide except class or a finally class, but not both. You can't use else class as well as along with a finally class. So both the things has to be noted. And see here, dear friends, let me just go with an execution of an example. Here it is our first example. We are just opening a file, that is the test file.txt, and we are writing a statement into that file. That is, it is a text file. So this is my test file for exceptional handling. And finally, an error, that is can't find file or read file, and apart from that it is closing. And see here, if you do not have permission to open the file in writing mode, then this will produce the following result. How it is it? You can't write or find the data, or you can't just read the data. So that is what the finally. Okay, and here it is an example of the file operation to illustrate this. See here, dear friends, this is what you are just going to make use of the text file, and you're just making the encoding of this UTF -8, where this you are just going to have some file operation, whether whatever you want, whether to write it or only to read it, or even though any appending, and at last the finally is closed. So this type of construction makes sure that the file is closed even if exceptions occurs during the program. So that is what here it is mainly provided exactly in the finally class. So here the test file is closed now. Okay, dear friends, let me just make a see. Actually, in the previous session, we have just seen about a code that which provided a type error, and now let's add an additional to that. Yesterday, we have just seen this. You may remember this. Okay, so see here you are just going to enter the name and year you born, and here you are just going to give something that makes the year born thing. And after that, if there is no typo error or if there is no value error and nothing to be made some error under zero division error, what it just do, it just goes for the else and make the printing. Okay, and here what it just prints, yeah, I usually run with a try block, and at last finally we are just having I always run. And see here, dear friends, let me just make this execution. Here I'm just making my name. Yeah, it's Ajanta, year born 19. Let me just have something 26. Okay, yeah, you are Ajanta and your age is 96. Fine. Here we don't have any typo error, or even though we don't have any value error, and just we didn't have any zero division error. Sorry, it just scrolled down. Yeah. So apart from that, it just went on to the else part, which is mandatory to work it out, and then finally it had the run. And see, it is also shortened this number of lines into a simplification of code, and here it is. And here what it's just going to do, kindly have a note of it. The same thing where you are just going to write the name, you are just going to give the year, and with the command that you are Ajanta and your ages. Okay, and if you are having any exception, yeah, that going to be happen in E, and it would be printed. And here, apart from this else, or finally here we are just giving the except, and as I have already told, except and finally should not be coming. Both should not come, any one it has to be come. And let me just execute. See, the same number of codes, now it is simplified. Okay, and 1926 again, same. Yeah, here it is. Fine. Let me just move on to argument of an exception. See, actually an exception can have an argument, which is a value that gives additional information about the problem. The content of the argument vary by exceptions. You capture an exceptions argument by supplying a variable in the except class. Let me just see as how it can be happen. See here, dear friends, here it is a function where you are just making a temp conversion, that is the conversion of a temperature, and here it just going to return the value. If you are just going to give something in xyz, and that is going to make it in the int, and see here it is a temp conversion, and here you are just providing the string value, and here, as surely we know that this is here for temperature conversion we have to give a number, that is an integer. So even though you are just making it in the typecasting of integer, here it is in string where the argument does not contain numbers. Okay, so that is what it just going to have, and even though it is just going to with an argument, let us just execute it. See here, dear friends, the argument does not contain numbers, that is what here it is providing. And next, invalid literal for int with base 10, where here it just gives you the exceptional value error. Okay, this is how you can just make argument for an exceptions. Okay, next coming for rising an exception. See, you can rise exception in several ways by using the rise statement. And here it is the general syntax for the rise statement, that is the rise and exceptions. And here it is the argument. Next comes the traceback. And here exception is the type of exception. For an example, name error or type error, value error or zero division error, that is the exact thing. Okay, so here the exception, here it is the type of exceptions, and the argument is a value for the exception argument, and the argument is optional. If not supplied, the exception argument is none. Okay, that is what the exact syntax would understand in the way. And the final argument traceback is also optional, where this optional and used, rarely used in practice, and if present is a traceback object used for exceptions also. Okay, let me just see it with an example. See here, dear friends, here we are having a function name, and let me just be the level. And what is the level? Yeah, here if the level is less than 1, it just has to rise an exception. And see here some codes that it would not be executed even if we raise the exact exception. So here returning the level, and see here dear friends, this is what the exact try except block, and where the function name is the function that is called with an argument of that is attribute as -10. And here once on calling it just goes here, and with it is a -1, it just rises a level and make it in a return level. And see here it just makes the return level of it. And if not, if it is going for the exception, it just jump on to the exception, where what is the exception? Error in level argument, where what is the argument, and it just gives the exact attribute. And as we know, yeah, less than 1, so here it is in negative. Surely we are just going to expect the error, and here it is error in level argument. And what is the exact argument? It is -10. Okay, let me just move on to the next one. Writing the hello world program. This is what we just used to make it when we just write a built-in function. See here, dear friends, Python also allows you to create your own exception by deriving classes from the standard built-in exception. So here is an example related to runtime error. So here a class is created that is a subclass for runtime error, and this is useful when you need to display more specific information when an exception is caught. And in the try block, the user defined exception is raised and caught in the except block. So the variable e is used to create the instant of the class. Here it is network error. So here let me just have the network error class here, and you're just going to have this as the runtime error. And so once you have defined the above class, you can raise the exception as follows. And whenever the network error has been raised, yeah, it just going to give you the functionality. Okay, fine. Let me just move on to the next function, that is enumerate. See here, dear friends, if we are interested in index of a list, we use enumerate built-in function to get the index of each item in the list. So here also we can just make use of that functionality as an that is the try catch functionality. And see here, this can also be make use of an enumerate function, where it is just going to have the iteration of this functionality each and every time. And here, see here, the country, it is just having the placeholder value of this I, and wherever if this items, yeah, has been found at index, this index. And what is the index? Yeah, this is going to print as it is. Here we are not just going to pass any attribute for this I or index, so it is just going to print as it is. And to the iteration of this Finland, wherever I is there, it is just going to print this, and other than I, it is just going to print the high. So here it happens. Okay, in countries, yeah, we didn't have the countries, is not defined here, and I just want to define the country here. Just a second, dear friends. Just I give, okay, I just give it is as a list. Okay, inside the list here, first one is the Finland. Next, let me just go for Sweden. Next, let me just give it for the India. Okay, anyhow, it just enough, I think so. So see here, dear friends, whenever we just give this, so it just makes the iteration. Okay, fine. And next comes the zip. Actually, see, sometimes we would like to combine list when looping through them. So see here, we have that as an example and make it as a zip folder. And here the fruits, it is just having one list, and vegetables as one more list, and where fruits and vegetable combiningly we need to have as a zip. Okay, so combination of two or more lists also we can just combine it, and here we are just giving an empty list. Okay, so that the folder that is the variable name of that empty list is which we are creating is fruits and veggies, and for this F and V we are just making the list of this fruits and vegetables which is in the indexed variable, and each and everything we are just going to append it inside this veggie. And when we want to print this, yeah, here it is how comes fruit banana veg tomato, again fruit orange veg potato, fruit mango veg cabbage, and fruit lemon veg is onion, fruit is lime, and veg is carrot. So this is how you can just make use of the combination. Okay, as empty list here it is, and here as for as resultant we just get a zip folder of each and everything, one fruit and one list, one veggie, which combines as an one of the combination of the objects. Okay, dear friends, and here I just given you for a hands-on practice on just a level 1 exercise. Kindly have a hands-on exercise on this topic, and hope we just see it in the next topic on the next day. Thank you. Have a nice day. Good night.